is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What is up? Welcome into this week's edition of Mizzou That's Who, your podcast from Missouri Athletics here on KC Sports Network. I'm Tucker Franklin, joined as always by Gabe DeArmond and Maggie Johnson. Look, it's been a busy week. It's been a busy weekend, really. If we could just sum it up into 3 days for Missouri Athletics, we're here to give you the latest. Gabe, how have you been?
What day is it, guys?
Well, today is actually Monday. I don't know if you, if I think all those days probably run together.
So it's not Saturday yet? Okay. Ask me on Saturday. If we can get to that, the answer will be fine.
Love to hear it. Maggie, how was your weekend? How are you doing with everything?
Yeah, I had family Christmas, so I've already gotten that out of the way. So pretty good, I guess. Yeah, I'm not as stressed as Gabe, I'm sure, but I think I'm like every other Mizzou fan, just kind of waiting for things to happen, pushing refresh. It was funny, I was in my Mizzou group chat and somebody was like, I keep pushing refresh, but every time I push refresh and somebody commits to Ole Miss, and somebody else was like, well, stop pushing refresh then. But yeah, we're just kind of waiting for something to happen, so.
'Tis the season, right? I was informed today, we're recording this obviously on Monday, it's a week away from Christmas, and I said, what happened to this year? Like, that is legitimately insane that we are a week away from Christmas. Missouri basketball played a game on Sunday, didn't quite turn out like we all would have liked it to turn out, in Kansas City too. We'll talk about that, but there obviously, I'm sure you guys clicked on the podcast to hear some transfer portal updates, everything that's going on with Missouri football. They're giving you a reason not to pay attention to Missouri basketball right now with the guys they're in. And look, all of this stuff is so fluid. So while we're recording this podcast, something might happen. And by the time you're listening to this podcast, something might happen as well. So if we don't get anything, apologies. Obviously, make sure that you're tuned into Power Mizzou if you want to stay up to the latest game. But let's start with basketball. I think it's cool that they do this game in Kansas City. They're obviously going to play in St. Louis on Friday. But overall thoughts, Gabe, on their matchup with Seton Hall?
Well, first the Kansas City part. I think they kind of felt like they needed to do something in Kansas City because there was a big deal, all these events in St. Louis and all that, right? And I think Kansas City wants to be a part of that. I don't think it was the ideal setup.
Right.
There's no real regional. I mean, it's Seton Hall. They're from New Jersey. This is basically a home game for Missouri. The Patriots are so bad that the Chiefs got moved from Monday night to this was scheduled intentionally because the Chiefs didn't play.
Right.
And then the Chiefs did play. And so that's going to hurt attendance. It seemed like a better crowd than was announced. I think they announced 7,000, which is, I don't know, guys. I mean, I know this won't be a popular thing to say, but if you're in Kansas City and you want things like this to happen, 7,000 ain't great.
Right.
They'd get 7,000 in Columbia for that game and wouldn't have to travel and would be a lot easier. And look, people spend their money how they want to spend their money. I'm not blaming anybody. Whatever the reasons are, they are. But the simple fact is, if these are going to continue, there has to be a reason to continue them. That said, the team did not exactly give anyone a reason to buy a ticket to the next one that is like this because played very poorly for 34 minutes. The offense was hit or miss, and the defense was mostly just miss. Most points they've given up outside of the KU game last year under Gates, and that KU team was significantly better than this Seton Hall team.
Yeah, I saw this Seton Hall shot 59% from the field, 43.5% from three-point range. All 5 of their starters scored in double figures, which is pretty insane. Especially for being at the Sprint Center, which you would think that we would have quite the home court advantage. I mean,
at halftime, we all felt like Missouri should have been down 15. Seton Hall's got 62% in the first half, and Missouri was only down 4. And our whole message board, and I agreed with them, was, well, they can't shoot 62% again. Well, they didn't. They only shot like 57. So
and we didn't even shoot that poorly. We actually shot 50% from 3. We went 12 for 24. We shoot a lot of threes. We shoot a lot of threes every game. I think we talked about that last week. And we shot 45.2% overall. And, we get out rebounded almost every game, but it was only 31-29. So, I mean, overall, it doesn't seem like we played that badly. They just
played fine offensively.
Played fine offensively. We just, there was no. The defense was just a struggle. It was just a struggle. I mean, you're not going to win if they shoot that well.
Yeah.
You're just not ever. And
I'm telling you,
that's a defensive thing.
I mean, I'm telling you guys, I was sitting baseline, and there were plays where it looked like Seton Hall's guys were sitting around, standing at the 3-point line going, I mean, I don't really want to shoot this, but, nobody's going to come out and guard? Okay, I'll shoot it. And they went 9 of 16. They actually went 1 for 7 to finish the game from 3. But by that point, it didn't matter because once they cooled off from 3, they were just going around Missouri. They had 30 points in the paint in the second half. I mean, they were getting anything they wanted inside. It was not good. Just not good. The good news, however, is Dennis Gates informed us that not only is Seton Hall an NCAA tournament team, it appears every team Missouri has played also is an NCAA tournament team this year. So good news. They're the first, except my favorite part of it was, he listed off Jackson State, NCAA tournament team. Kansas, NCAA tournament team. Seton Hall, NCAA tournament team. Minnesota, I don't know where they're going to end up, but they're going in the right direction. So I'm sorry, Minnesota fans. It's not great news for you.
Oh no, not the kiss of death from Dennis Gates there. I was looking up Jackson State's record because I still don't think they've won very many basketball games. Hand up, don't follow Jackson. Hey, shout out, they beat the North Carolina A&T Aggies this week, but they're 5-7. They're on the right track when it comes to them. What stuck out to me, you got a KC kid lead the scoring at 22 points for the Missouri Tigers, Tamar Bates. Good to see him offensively get the things going. I think he tied a career high with 22 as well. So, overall, I mean, basketball has been, I think going into this year, expectation-wise, I guess I'm going to speak for myself here because that's the only person I can really speak for. I didn't have that high of expectations for this season, right? I do think that they might have outperformed a little bit last year than where they were at. Obviously, they've got a very bright future with the class that they've got coming in, and they've already got a really good start to the 2025 class already, so the future looks really bright. I don't think people should completely sour. I don't think people should completely sour on this team just because this year is the gap year, the bridge year to the good years for now. I mean, listen, you can enjoy what Sean East is doing. I think he's playing good basketball. I think he's been able to find a bucket and everything like that. But I'm not living and dying by every result in this non-con schedule.
The season is not over. I mean, they've got 21 games left, something like that, 20 games left. I don't know. I've seen the bragging rights game turn seasons around. It is possible. You also cannot look at where this team is today and reasonably think NCAA tournament. Doesn't mean they can't get there, but as of today, that's not a realistic expectation.
Not with how they're playing. And I was reading your article, Gabe, about the productivity of how like Nick Otter's been playing and his, assist to turnover ratio and the shots and things that Noah Carter's taking and how it's gone down. Obviously, I think you just can't have that. I think I said at the beginning of the season with Nick Honor that he didn't need to make a lot of shots. He just needed to be a scoring threat. And I think that's kind of taken a turn a little bit. I think he's maybe taken that a little bit too much of a becoming a scoring threat. And he's made a lot of shots. He's been a better scorer.
He's shooting 44% from three.
He's shooting well, but we're not having, I don't even have that stat pulled up, but our assists, the amount of assists we have, I think Sean East had 6, and then the next highest had 3, and then it was just 1-1-1. Everybody, the offense is terrible.
The offense just looked so much different. I mean, I had kind of that over-the-top view in Lawrence, and you're going, nobody's moving. What are they doing? Yeah. The ball movement last year was, the word I used this morning, at times it was mesmerizing, the way that team passed the ball. And they don't do it this year. They would have 3 open threes on one possession, right? One guy would have one and pass it up to get a better one, and It's just not happening this year. There are so many possessions where they don't seem to get into anything until 10 or 12 seconds left on it. And I don't know why. I don't know. I don't think it's that Dennis Gates has forgotten basketball. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know the reasons, but it's pretty obvious. They were 9th in the country in offensive efficiency last year, and they are 72nd this year. And that's the defense isn't better enough to make up for. As was clearly evidenced on Sunday.
Well, I think it's an issue if Aiden Shaw's ending with 0 points and 2 rebounds. I mean, like, things like that are a pretty big issue as a starter. I mean, you can't.
And I don't understand it. He won't shoot the ball. Like, it's not that he's missing shots. He won't shoot it. And it's weird. He took 21 threes last year. He made 6 of them. It's not great, but like, you had to think he might do. He's over 1 this year. He won't shoot the ball from 10 feet this year. And I'm not sure I get it. I do. It's fair to criticize or question some of the things Gates is doing. I mean, we get the 2.5-minute Mabor Majak cameo in the first half of every game, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He tried to play John Tonje for the first time in like 8 games yesterday, and it didn't work. Trent Pierce is look, I get it. He hasn't played well, so you get why he hasn't played, but then he comes in and actually played really well in the last 7 minutes. So he just seems like we're 11 games into the season, and I still don't think he really knows what he has.
That's a point that I think I saw Gabe you too. He played 13 guys yesterday. Is that right?
Yeah. And I promise it would have been 14 if Caleb Grill wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
It was like he was just searching the entire time. Just, can I find 5 guys that can function together on both ends of the floor? And they kind of found it in the last 6 minutes, but also that made me think, you know what we did in the KU game? We let ourselves believe what we wanted to believe. Oh, they really did a nice job fighting back and getting within 8 and making it inch. They were down 18, guys. KU let up. They let up.
Yeah.
And then they got to 8 and had to get serious. They were down 19 to Seton Hall. Seton Hall let up. And they got back to 6, and Seton Hall finished it. They deserve credit for not quitting, but and for making things interesting. But they've got to quit putting themselves in position to have to make them interesting.
Stat I just found here: Mizzou is now 27-1 when scoring 75 or more points under Dennis Gates. First lost since scoring over 75. They scored 87 in the loss. That's the most in a Dennis Gates era loss. So that just tells you how much the other team had to score for them to score 87 points and lose. All right, we're going to take a break. First, got to say, guys, about home field apparel. We're going to get to the transfer portal stuff. I'm sure what everybody tuned in for. I'm sure people didn't tune in to hear us complain about Mizzou basketball. If we did, there you go. We did it. But let me tell you about our folks at homefieldapparel.com. Got all kinds of high-quality stuff. Got a shipment coming in today, I think, is what it said. I got a shipment coming in today for some Christmas presents. Go take advantage of that there. I don't know if you can get it by Christmas now, but you can get a shirt that looks like mine and Maggie's. Maggie and I are wearing the same shirt. Not a big deal. But you can go to homefieldapparel.com, shop the selection of over 150 different colleges. I always like to go on when I see these random bowl games on, like the famous Toastery Bowl going on right now between Old Dominion and Western Kentucky. I like to go on and see, does Home Field Apparel have these shirts? Yep, you bet they sure do. And I like to see the old vintage logos and the really cool logos that they come up with for these schools. So make sure to go check them out. Use that code KCSN23 at checkout for 15% off your first order. So if you haven't ordered from homefieldapparel.com yet, go check them out. We really appreciate all their support. When we come back, we're going to get into the transfer portal, into the college football stuff right after.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Really quick, refresh the timelines really quick. See if we got any changes, any updates before we start this segment. I think we're good. Transfer portal. Gabe, I knew it was going to ruin the sport.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, if I'm being honest, it's kind of ruined my day, to be quite honest.
That's fair. I understand how that goes. Big weekend for Missouri in the just visit department in terms of campus. Now on the recruiting dead period right now. I think that's how the calendar works until a very small window in January after the bowl games, and then They have another dead period. Calendar is crazy. You laid it really well out there on the forums there for On Power Mizzou, Gabe. But let's walk us through this weekend. They got some pretty big names on campus.
Yeah, let's see. So it started on Thursday. Chris McClellan from Florida, defensive tackle, was here. He had Missouri in his top 3 out of high school, along with Oklahoma. He also visited Colorado this weekend. Another kid. I'm going to try, guys. Chidozie Nwankwo. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. He's from Florida. He's actually, as we're recording this, it is 3:53. He has said he is announcing at 4 o'clock. So by the time we're done talking about this, we will know if he's going to Missouri or Colorado. Had a big offensive lineman named Remington Strickland on campus from Texas A&M. There was a linebacker named Corey Flagg came in on Saturday. He's from Miami. I'm missing some other kid who was here on Thursday. And then the big one, Caden Green, visited Oregon on Friday and part of Saturday, and then spent, from what I'm told, about 9 hours on campus in Columbia on Sunday. He tweeted out a picture of the stadium, so we know he was there, just as we know he was in Oregon because he tweeted out a picture of his shoes in the airport. I mean, he could have done that at Macy's, frankly. I don't know where he was. I'm assuming that it was in Oregon. But so those decisions are all. Oh, the other kid was Darius Smith. He's an outside linebacker at Georgia. Would be a defensive end at Missouri because they play a 4-3 as opposed to a 3-4. So those are the 6 kids who were in this weekend. That is by no means everybody they're looking at, but those are the ones that decisions really could come at any. I mean, all 6 of those guys could have made decisions by Friday. Another kid, Aeneas Peebles, who they had in defensive tackle from Duke, chose Virginia Tech on Monday. So I don't know if that's about where we are. I'm sure I've forgotten something. If this is like the message board, if we had comments turned on, somebody would say, well, what about this kid? And I would say, I don't know. I just named 7 kids. That's what I know.
That's my favorite part is when people ask me about it. It's like, I'm not keeping secrets. I was like, that's I saw you do that. And I said, yeah, that's makes a great point. I think obviously the big one, Caden Green, is what everyone, we did a podcast last week. It's been pretty much a week since the Caden Green whole saga has gone on. That timeline has kind of, there's been things said on both sides of things about why Caden Green hit the portal, why he didn't. It's a lot.
Honestly, who cares?
Correct.
Like, it doesn't matter. He's transferred.
Yes. He officially hit the portal, I believe, on Wednesday, or maybe it was Thursday. His name officially showed up.
Yeah. It officially showed up Thursday.
Officially showed up then. Hey, KJ Jefferson also officially hit the portal. It was announced like when the portal opened that he was going to do it, but now he just officially hit the portal. I think that's the big fish that everybody is really interested in. And yeah, I think that like if you start to look at Missouri's offensive line, right, we started to talk about what Missouri could do to kind of retool that offensive line as they wait for maybe like a Logan Reichert to get ready, right, to develop and get ready to that level. Adding a guy like Caden Green would be a pretty good guy to have as a I don't want to say a stopgap because he's got 3 years of eligibility left. So if he comes to Missouri, 2 really, because he's going to go to the NFL. But yeah, he's got a freshman All-American, right? So I mean, he's pretty good when it comes down to it. But Caden Green is a big one. Maggie, thoughts on any of those guys who hit campus on this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Caden is one of the big needs. I'd say offensive line is one of our big needs. We're losing an All-American in Javon Foster. I feel like we were a little hard on the offensive line. I feel like I'm always hard on the offensive line, but I think that that's an easy place to be hard on because you look at games like LSU where we possibly could have won the game. It's off the offensive line, and that's easy to say because that's the series that cost us the game. There's more series and more plays that things could have happened differently, and you could have looked back on, and that could have, something else could have happened, or we could have scored another series or whatever. Could have stopped them from scoring another series, and that could have changed the game as well. But that's neither here or there. But yeah, Caden Green, I would say, would be an amazing pickup. So I'd love to have him. I think some secondary guys would obviously be good, but I know we have some players returning as well, and I'm very happy that we got Toriano Pride, so I can't really complain much with that pickup. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I know we picked up an offensive tackle just a little bit ago, but not a portal guy, right, Gabe?
Oh, right, a high school guy, Caleb Highfrom, committed. He used to be committed to Illinois. He's a guy. I mean, that's obviously a 26-ish type impact, but you've got to have those guys. Like, it doesn't need to be one or the other, right? You can recruit high school and the portal, but this really, to me, guys, we're now at the point. Don't worry about 2025. Don't worry about 2026. Every chip you have is shoved right in the middle of the table with your returning quarterback. You're launching a Heisman campaign. The entire receiver room could come back. You just added the 7th leading rusher in the country in the portal. If you can add Caden Green, you've got an offensive line you feel pretty good about. Christian Williams is back. Chuck Hicks is back. You're going to add some defensive portal pieces. I mean, this is your year. You go chase it. This is, if you were Ohio State, if you were Georgia, every year you chase it, right? If you're Missouri, if you're Ole Miss, you hope you're chasing it every year, but you can't count on it. I made the comparison last week, I think, to the Royals, like trading for Cueto and Zobrist in 2015. I have good friends who are Mets fans, and going into that World Series, they thought, well, we have Jacob deGrom and Matt Harvey and all these we'll be here again. Like, if we don't win it, it's okay. We'll be here again. Guess what? They haven't been there. So, like, you cannot go into next year saying, yeah, we want to get there, but also, we'll be here. You might, but you might not. This might be your shot. So load up and take your shot. And I think Missouri's doing it.
What I was really surprised with, you mentioned getting Marcus Carroll out of the portal. They had a surprise commitment from a running back that, really wasn't on my radar personally, Kawan Lacey. And I started to watch like his highlight film, and you start to watch that.
Oh my
and
God.
Like, oh, holy cow. Like, this kid could come in and make some serious impact in year one. I believe he's a 4-star. How those star ratings go. So
they're amazing. They're perfect. They're gospel. Take them as the truth. $9.95 powermizzou.com.
There you go. I got really excited when I saw, like, okay, I could see 2 running backs right there because they do have a little bit of contrasting styles. I think when you see those 2 guys, I could see that working out. I don't think they're done in the portal though. It's so interesting now that the way that you watch. I mean, Missouri did have Jabari Johnson. He did hit the transfer portal as well. That one didn't. It's a bummer, right? Because I think that he would have been pretty good. But I understand, right? He starts looking around, thinking, "No, it's going to be probably 3 years before I get a shot at this thing. I might want to go hit the portal." And a kid who's not from around Missouri either, a kid who's from the Pacific Northwest, and there's a couple schools up there that got positions open to play quarterbacks at the Power 5 position. Yeah, I don't blame him at all for hitting the portal. It's just kind of the give and the take that you get with it when it comes down to the portal as well. But yeah, some pretty big guys that could be committing to Missouri at any moment when you're listening. Another high school kid who was he on campus this week? Was according to Crutchfield, when was he on campus?
He was on campus this weekend. He is announcing at 10 o'clock Tuesday morning.
Yes.
We are making arrangements to live stream that on our YouTube channel. I believe that is going to happen. It's Missouri or Arkansas. I do not know for sure where he is going. I don't generally like to invest if I think he's going somewhere else, but we'll see what happens.
Interesting notes. We will certainly.
And then there's a kid named Jaron Sensabaugh who's a defensive back who was committed to Vanderbilt. He will announce on Wednesday between Missouri and Tennessee. We are less certain on that one.
Okay. There's a lot of irons in the fire right now for Missouri football. Eli Drinkwitz and the fellas are cooking over there. Obviously, when we record this podcast on Monday, Drinkwitz even replied to a tweet to you, Gabe, and said it's important in terms of a tweet that he had had made out there. And he's not the only one on the Missouri staff tweeting. I think I saw Evan Bame tweet out some stuff. The whole recruiting coordinating staff is tweeting stuff out. So they're definitely stoking the flames of Missouri fans, getting them excited for what's to come in the portal. And I don't know, Maggie, how you can't be excited with this era of Missouri football.
Well, I think everybody is. It's kind of like Gabe was talking about. I think everybody is all in on 2024. I think every single person I know has renewed their season tickets. I've renewed my season tickets. So, I mean, nobody that I know is waiting to see what's happening. It's just they've done it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, well, not everybody I know, but a lot of people I know are headed to the Cotton Bowl. Like, they're invested. And I think that's what a lot of these recruits are seeing, and what a lot of people maybe haven't seen from Mizzou fans in the past. And that's exciting. It's just a big change. And it's kind of what everybody's just been waiting for, just a reason to really jump all in. And what better time to jump all in than now?
Yeah, I mean, in the area of NIL, and Missouri seems to be using it effectively. I was told the other day that by a KCSN personality that Mizzou was a poverty program because they're using NIL, and I said, think about what you just said. I said, think about what you just said there. I had to let him know a little bit, but look,
Yeah,
I mean,
I love the reaction, and don't get me wrong, Missouri fans do it too. This is not
Yes.
just everybody else, but like as soon as a kid goes somewhere, well, he's just trying to get the money. Why do you get your job? do you tell your job? I just love the atmosphere. You
Right.
don't even have to pay me.
right.
I just want to come in and hang out because I like you guys. No, money's a part of it, and it's legal. Like, I don't get why we still talk about this like it's some thing that shouldn't be mentioned.
Well, and that, let's like look back on the past however many years of college football and what people have been choosing to go to schools for, right? And
It's never been money. We know that.
right. It's always just been the name on the front of the jersey. Like,
They made me feel at home. It was like true brotherhood.
right, exactly. I'm sorry, but people have been getting these like impermissible or whatever the word is benefits forever, and now it's like you're just you can't. Yeah, now it's permissible. So like you cannot be mad about it.
Yep.
Like you just cannot, and you should be excited about parity.
Has anybody ever used the word permissible? Like, I would like a kid to commit to a school, and when I call him and be like, why'd you commit here? He goes, man, it was just the permissible benefits. They were way too good to turn down.
I want someone to just be that honest, right? Like, why did you choose to go to Ole Miss? They offered me a lot of money. Like, I just want.
Yeah.
You know, one high school.
And he goes, I'm trying to decide which Mercedes to drive to buy my steak dinner tonight. At Luther commitment ceremony, somebody asked the question. I don't know who it was. Like, what parts did NIL play in your decision? And I mean, this was brand new. Like, this was 4 months old. And credit to him, after a 2 or 3 second pause, he just said, no factor. We didn't talk about that. Like, he answered it the right way. I mean, you believe what you want to believe.
Right.
But he answered it the only way he's really technically allowed to answer.
He said, I know, but I'm going to tell you something completely.
I know that you know, and you know that I know that you know.
I love that.
And I would be crazy to not like take it into consideration,
Right?
And then just take it. I mean,
Whatever works, man.
And hey, even all these coaches, like somebody brought up a post on our board from SEC Media Days where Lane Kiffin called NIL legalized cheating. And they're like, well, now he's doing it. Yes, you can either do it or not do it. I mean, you can choose not to play this game. It's not going to turn out well for you. Your program will be worse for it.
yeah. Or Lane Kiffin can either not do it, or he can keep losing to Nick Saban every year and lose his job. So he's going to do it.
That's how it's going to go. And it's going to look interesting moving forward. Obviously, the landscape, everything's ever evolving. Will there ever be really widespread legal or widespread regulations? Maybe eventually, but right now, while there's not a ton of widespread stuff, I think it's great in Missouri's interest to take advantage of what they can of this NIL. But I've got to tell you about our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. And NFL fans, it's time to unwrap nonstop football action. This holiday season, throw down on big matchups with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And this week, new customers can bet just $5 on the NFL and score $150 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now with code KCSN. New customers can bet $5 on NFL action to score $150 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restriction terms and responsible gaming resources. All right, National Signing Day is coming up on Wednesday. That's do transfer portal guys stick to the National Signing Day? That's only for high school kids, right, Gabe?
It's for high school kids. Most transfer kids, I think, just sign scholarship agreements, which I think technically means that like nothing they actually say is necessarily binding until class starts. So if you remember a few years ago, a kid named Jadarius Perkins committed to Missouri and then like before class started, transferred to Florida, so it can happen, which makes this stuff even wilder. In the podcast breaking news, Chidozie Nwankwo is headed to Colorado, which deprives us of the ability to have a defensive line with two players whose names started with NW, which I've got to believe would not have happened before in college football history, right?
It's a tight window. That's a tight window to try to fit something into.
There's not a lot, yeah.
Yeah, choosing Colorado, probably not a bad spot to choose, truthfully. And I don't know if there was a ton of momentum. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Gabe, on that front from there. But it does seem like that Missouri needs another defensive lineman for me to feel comfortable.
I believe they will take two defensive tackles and at least one defensive end. But here's the other thing people have to remember about the portal stuff. Hardly anybody's played a bowl game. I just saw a couple of UCLA guys go in the portal. They just played, Saturday, I think. So after bowl games, kids will enter. After spring football, there's another window. Like, you don't want to take your entire roster in this week because there are going to be other kids in the portal that will then give you buyer's remorse over what you took. So you've got to leave yourself 3 or 4 spots open for what happens over the next month, and then really in whenever it is, April, I think is the other window. And I get it. Everybody wants everything to happen right away. And I do think by the time most people hear this, I think there's going to be some news for Missouri fans outside of Chidozie going to Colorado. So, but it's a long race, and maybe the guy that sprints the first 100 yards and gets ahead of everybody else, maybe he ends up winning. Maybe he hangs on. Maybe he has the statement. But maybe not, man. Maybe you just kind of take your time and get the right guys that end up just fine.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't want to wait, obviously, too long. It's kind of like you don't want to wait too long before getting in the portal because you want to make sure you have a spot somewhere, because there's going to be a lot of names in the portal before all is said and done. I don't remember what the exact number was of names in the portal last year, but what was it? There was like a
number.
It was a crazy, crazy number. Wasn't there 1,000 players in the FBS players' names in the portal last year or something insane? And there weren't homes for everybody. So you also have to, you gotta play it smart, or you won't have a place to go.
Yep. The only breaking news I saw is Sky Moore said to the IR. So don't know what happened there.
I don't feel like my reaction to that news would be appropriate podcast material.
That's okay. I just saw it come across the timeline as I was refreshing. I thought I'd share it with you as it happened. But yeah, as I mentioned, National Signing Day on the 20th should have. We should finally be able to get Eli Drugos to talk about these kids. Right, that's when he can officially talk about them and give his thoughts and feelings. Besides tweeting out cryptic fire and tiger emojis.
Here's how wild the transfer portal is. Like, I don't even think anybody's thought about the fact that in 48 hours, the number one defensive lineman in America is signing with Missouri. You know, like, that's just, and I just remember when Williams committed, you know, the whole thing was just, well, it's all right. Don't worry. This race ain't over. This race has been over for weeks now. Like, nobody's ever even talked about him going anywhere else. Wow. You know, he's shut it down on social media. And so now to the point where it's just like, oh, yeah, by the way, that number 3 player in America, number 1 by some standards, he just signed Missouri. That happened too.
I just hope he has a pair of Mizzou gloves on his table, like right in front of his contract.
Speaking of Mizzou gloves.
What?
I don't know if you saw. Who's the kid playing in like the Mississippi Georgia All-Star game?
Jamarian Burnett.
Yeah, he was wearing Missouri gloves. He had tweeted out a couple days ago like, "Room is still open."
Glove science says we don't know what that means.
That's true. Glove science says not a great sign. Honestly, this is not a great sign for Missouri if you're going on the glove science. But I expect them to have a pretty decent class in terms of high school kids coming in. They were able to flip Talon Chandler, who, listen, that kid's been on Twitter and he's been recruiting with the top of the top. James Madison's been one of the kids who's been out there trying to recruit a bunch of people to come to Missouri. But there's a lot of momentum behind the program, obviously. But Gabe, I'm curious to you. I want to ask you about this because I don't know off the top of my head. The scholarship situation, how does that work with the transfer portal? Is it going to be like a 1 in, 1 out situation of like, if you bring somebody in, you got to take somebody out type of deal?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember here is that there are no rules.
Okay.
Like, you can just do whatever you want. But I mean, there were kids that were on NIL deals in place of scholarships all over the country last year. Like, if you have 85 and you're like, I really want to add that guy to my team. You're like, hey, yo, random booster, do we have $85,000 to cover this kid's scholarship? Hey, here's a nice NIL deal. It just so happens to be the exact same amount that you would get from the school to go to school. You know, so that's the first thing. They are in approximately a situation where I think they've got 2 or 3 open spots. Most likely will be filled by high school guys. And then it will be for every guy they bring in, they have to have somebody leave. But the answer to the question, how many scholarships do they have, has never changed. It's how many do they need. They will, if they want a guy on their team, he will be on their team. They will figure out a way to make that happen. I mean, I think Jonas Gates had 85 scholarship players on the Missouri basketball team this year, honestly. So
he's tried to play every single one of them.
I guess we don't technically know every player that's going to leave at the moment either, because there could still be a few that we think are leaving that end up staying.
There have to be a few who leave. I mean, there have to.
But there could be a few that we thought were leaving that could end up staying, vice versa. I mean, and obviously some that we think are staying that will go to the transfer portal because that's just life.
Nature's a beast.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see after the bowl game what happens, especially with some of the NFL. Like Theo Weiss could choose to go to the NFL. And I think I've talked to some people with NFL connections that think that he's probably a late round guy, but still could get drafted. Talking about a draftable wide receiver there. But Gabe, as you already mentioned, like having that wide receiver room come back for next season, like if you have both Theo and Luther back and, you know, Mookie, you're like, hang on a second. What are we cooking here? No pun intended with Brady, but and also to have the staff come back too, I think is something that we haven't really talked a whole lot about, but like having Blake Baker and Kirby Moore return is like not nothing, certainly, to have those guys come back.
It's also not fine. There's a long time left, guys. I've had 3 different people reach out to me today since Notre Dame's offensive coordinator was named Troy's head coach and say, hey, I've kind of heard Kirby Moore's name around here a little bit. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't be very fun.
I would like to say real quickly though, along the lines of this kid who just went to Colorado, I tweeted that news out in the middle of the podcast, and I got a reply that said, I just wanted him because my daughter's name is Chidozie. So I want to believe that's true.
I would also like to believe that's true. I just saw this as it's coming down as an unnamed recruiting site is saying that 5-star quarterback Dylan Raiola has flipped his commitment to Nebraska. I think that was expected. Pete Thamel has now tweeted that out. He's expected to pick Nebraska over Georgia. So that is an interesting choice.
Nebraska finally making moves. Who would have thought it would have taken him this long?
The amazing part, he moved to Georgia when he committed to Georgia.
His whole family. Yeah, his whole family.
Guys, we thought the Cam Newton thing was nuts. I mean, you can now actually convince me Cam Newton just went to Auburn because he loved Auburn and the fans atmosphere. I would buy that compared to what we've seen this year.
Now talk about someone that took some impermissible benefits.
Allegedly.
Oh no, he served just 19-hour suspension. Came back a better man. Won a national title. So good for
nice.
Missouri's got a football game coming up. I mean, we still got a whole nother week before we talk about it, but I mean, it feels like no one cares about it right now, even though it's a pretty big game when it comes to Ohio State. It sounds like, Gabe, as we talked about last week, that Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to play, and Emeka Egbuka will probably play. As of this moment, they're playing, we should say, because everything in college football is so fluid when it comes to National Signing Day coming up, the transfer portal, everything. And I was really trying to stretch this podcast, so we might have had some news, but I don't think I will. I'll mercifully end it for Gabe, so he can sit in front of his computer for a little bit longer.
My dog would like to at least walk around the block today, so I appreciate it.
There you go. This is for Gabe's dog. Maggie, any final thoughts?
No, I'm just hoping that we get maybe a commitment later. If we do get a commitment later, and it is from maybe somebody that used to play in an adjacent state, it would be really funny because today's their head coach's birthday. It would just be a little bit funny.
Interesting. Sure. Layers on this. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I'm actually pretty excited for National Signing Day. I like the freshman classes they got coming in. I think they've got some pretty talented guys. Yeah, it's fun. I always love National Signing Day just to see who can do the most wild commitment is my favorite. The Luther Burden one's always good. I love the picture of him throwing the hats out there. Kawan Lacey had a good one where he pulled out like an elephant stuffed animal. Then he pulled out, I can't remember a shark, I think is what it was for Ole Miss. And then he pulled out the Mizzou flag. That was pretty cool. He brought out a big bag to symbolize something, I think. Maybe
I like the college graphics too. K-State, I think, did the barbecue sauce a couple years ago.
True.
I like the school graphics. I think that's always fun.
People like you call it National Signing Day. People like me call it National Unfollow Day. So 6 ones.
Yeah. It is Unfollow Day for sure.
And on that note, we appreciate you listening all the way to the end of the podcast. Sorry we couldn't give you any news during the time of this podcast, but you can stick with us the whole time. We'll give you more news as it comes out. Make sure to follow Gabe on Twitter at OurMizzouCom. On there. Follow Maggie. You're at Maggie L. Johnson. Is that correct?
That's it. That's
off the top of the head. Look at that. Look at that work.
Good. That's pretty good.
I don't remember a whole lot. Like I don't remember what I had for lunch today, but I can remember Maggie's Twitter handle.
Well, I'm sure you see it all the time. So.
Fair. You can also follow me on Twitter at Tucker D. Franklin. I don't really add a whole lot to the conversation, but I just make sure you see everything. But I appreciate it. Everyone listening to the end of the podcast. For Gabe, for Maggie, I'm Tucker Franklin. We'll talk to you guys next week.